Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this tutorial video on sternstalls. Throughout these tutorial videos, I will always aim to demonstrate skills in both modern and old school playboats, because I think it's important to observe the differences. There are also a few phrases I use repeatedly in these tutorials, so I'll just briefly explain those now. First of them is the centre line. That's just an imaginary line dividing the kayak and kayaker left and right, and it runs down the centre of the body and the centre of the boat. I also talk a lot about pre-loading or loading. There's a better explanation of this coming in the lean clean video that's coming soon, but it refers to the subtle control of hips and core muscles to place weight on specific quadrants of the boat, and it often therefore means that you're loading that quadrant with surface water. And finally, neutral positioning. This refers to a baseline standard of posture and muscle engagement. When upright, for instance, neutral means being sat upright, leaning neither forwards nor back, with the core engaged but not tensed. Another one of those core skills in freestyle, and arguably one of the most stylish, for its apparent lack of effort, just laying back, watching the clouds. Being comfy on the stern is also really useful for dynamic turns on the river. Not only that, but the stern stall is the gateway to wall rides, pirouettes, and other fun party moves. There are two main ways to get the kayak vertical on the stern. Either using a straight stern initiation, similar to a reverse double pump, or a more rotational approach. We'll look at both in this video, and think about the pros and cons of each, as well as considering how to hold the boat vertical. So firstly, the straight approach. From a neutral position, with the boat on about a 45-degree edge, load up the front quadrant on whichever side you want to initiate. Do this by applying slight pressure on the reverse face of the paddle blade and using the hips and knees to drive the feet down. Note that the paddle isn't strictly necessary here, and the shorter your boat, the less effort it will require. Just like with the bow stall, that pre-loaded quadrant will then be rejected. Capitalise on that power by engaging the knees and turning that push stroke into a pull. The end of the stroke may even become something like a draw stroke. At this point, the most crucial thing is to stay neutral. Too much force through the knees, or conversely too little core engagement, and the boat simply won't stay vertical. Secondly, the rotational approach. If you've been doing your lean cleans, this option may come more naturally to you, as this approach translates horizontal rotational momentum into vertical. So to begin with, you need to get the boat spinning. Commonly this is done with a sweep stroke on the opposite side than you want to initiate on, but even a very minimal stroke will suffice. As that horizontal rotation begins, explosively twist your torso in the direction of the turn, looking over your shoulder to the rear quadrants. At the same time, raise the knee on the inside of the turn, which will cause the rear quadrant on the outside of the turn to initiate. With that stern initiated, you then need to explosively unwind the torso into neutral position again, simultaneously engaging the knees to lift that bow to vertical. It may help to plant a shallow pry stroke on the inside of the turn to give that final burst of power and a little bit of control. But like the first method, it's less about what the paddle is doing and more about those core muscles being engaged. The only disadvantage to choosing this rotational approach is that you have committed yourself to the steeper learning curve of learning to control that rotational momentum once the boat is vertical. But now you are vertical, you're going to want to stay there. Traditionally, this is done by placing the paddle flat on the surface of the water over the head, creating a stable platform. But it's quite possible to hold the stern stall with the paddle horizontal across the chest, or with no paddle at all. The most vital thing is to keep the torso in that neutral position, lying on the water's surface. Use subtle pressure left and right with the paddle or hands to keep the boat from falling to either side, and subtle reactive movements of the core and knees to control the verticality of the boat. You don't need to be fully vertical. In fact, somewhere around 80 degrees is far more comfortable than full verticality. As with the bow stall, it's a Goldilocks zone skill. Too much power pulling up through the knees will bring the boat over on top of you. Too little core engagement, and it's so long stern stall.
I really hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial video. I hope it was informative. And please leave a comment suggesting something else you want to see a tutorial on, or something else that you'd like to see a video made about. Yeah, thank you very much for watching.